Hi everybody, Sean here from Trek Culture, and I am bringing you the ups and downs from the first episode of Star Trek Prodigy, Lost and Found. Now, if you've been through our channel before, you know that ups and downs goes by. We give everything we like an up, and everything we don't like a down, week to week. Let's just preface, as we go into Star Trek Prodigy, we can tell straight away that this is a show that is written for a younger audience, but I can tell you right now, this has got something for everyone. It is a spiritual sequel to Star Trek Voyager. That much is evident in the first episode. It doesn't rely on you having seen Voyager. So there's some nice kind of Easter eggs and things dropped throughout the episode that we, the older audience, will pick up on, while also it's giving you just enough mystery as a new viewer to enjoy this new universe. So with that said, just so you know, I'm going to approach these ups and downs as though it's for a very, very generalized audience. You know, there's things I think we can assume will not be covered in the series, and things that I think it's safe to assume will be covered in the series. Now that'll become more evident as we go along, but on paper, this is a kids show. This is not for the, this is not Star Trek Lower Decks, put it that way. Now, with all that said, let's get right into it. Now, my first up of the episode is going straight away to those visuals. Now, thanks to the trailers and clips released online, we've had nice teasers of what to expect from this season, and episode 1 absolutely delivers on this. The environment that they are in is stunningly realized. I mean, like, stunningly realized. And the bit that everyone is really waiting for, of course, is the exploration and the reveal of the protostar. Now, I'm going to go into the characterizations now in a moment, but let's just talk about this ship. This ship is pretty. You're getting strong evocations of armor-plated Voyager with the shape of a Nova-class ship as well. The bridge, of course, is extremely reminiscent of USS Verity from the expanded universe as well, this Odyssey-class starship. The protostar, for me, is a huge win in the addition to Star Trek canon. There's also, a few people have pointed out online as well, there is a slight Kelvin feel off it too, which I'm delighted about. It's kind of like a marrying of the two universes together in this one ship. The front, which I took initially as the deflector dish, but no, it seems to be like, it's almost like a troop carrier or even a colonizer ship, which is, it's great. The deflector dish seems to be kind of actually hidden inside the underside of the saucer section, and the standard area you would find the deflector dish is where Dal and Rok-Tahk enter the vessel. Really, really like the design of it so far, and also those phasers. Second up of the episode is to the various characterizations we get from the off. From this first episode alone, I feel that I know so clearly who each of these characters are going to be. So let's start with obviously Dal. Dal is the adventurer type. He is upbeat in a world where he really shouldn't be. He is a fresh voice for the franchise, someone who I think is going to be a really easily likable protagonist to follow. We have Gwyn, who is quite literally the reluctant member of this crew. Like, she is tied to the captain's chair at the end, and that's a really interesting thing. Now, we saw that image of her tied to the captain's chair, but what wasn't really clear from the trailers was just how much she was not a willing participant in their escape attempt. The way she's also revealed throughout the episode is that she's not particularly happy with what's going on the planet that she's on. You know, that much is obvious, but she did not end up on the protostar with them in terms of, say, part of the team with them. She's with them in that physically she can't leave right now. I'm already really enjoying Zero as a character. The Medusan is both evocative, if you like, of Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, in that metaphors and, you know, jokes tend to go over their head a little bit. My favorite line of the episode around Zero would be when Dal is stuck on the outside of the protostar saying, "Go Zero!" And Zero just goes, "Yay! Go Zero! Yay!" No, hit the go button, Zero. It was just delivered perfectly, and it was a good, solid laugh out of me in this first episode today. Rock Talk is wonderful because before the Universal Translator gets activated, we have the growling and grunting of the Breaker, which is another bringing in of expanded universe as well. And then, of course, once the Universal Translator is activated, the lovely voice of Riley Ellis-Raki comes through and, but now we'd seen that in the trailer, so it's not so much of a shock as it is a kind of a, excellent, we're on to the next bit now. And I like that. Jason Mantzoukas is immediately distinctive voice. So as soon as you hear his voice coming through Jankum Pog's mouth, you're like, okay, Grant, that's cool. And I will be very honest and say that I didn't expect to like Jankum Pog as much as I did. And let me preface by saying, Jason Mantzoukas, not a bad actor in any way. That's not what I mean. I just mean like, kind of, you kind of know what you're getting when you get a Jason Mantzoukas role. I'm going to eat my words because Jankum Pog is really, really fun and earnest. And I think the bits that they showed of him in the trailer were almost like, we have to get across the fact that this is a Tellarite. We have to get across the fact that they are argumentative. And funny enough, he's not really like that throughout the episode. He wants everyone to survive. He wants to get off this planet as well. Friendly, he's fun, he's upbeat. I have to say, I'm on Team Jankum Pog already. I'm okay with this. I'm gonna pause the characterizations to give an extra up to Murph. Please get used to this. On the actual planet itself, we get the Diviner, who's played by John Noble, of course. Not an awful lot to do in this episode, other than remind Dreadnought not to damage his prize. That is revealed throughout the episode, that this entire mining operation was to find the protostar, which was found entirely accidentally by Rock Talk and Dal. So once this is discovered, the Diviner has no interest whatsoever in damaging this ship, even to the point where it could result in, quite frankly, endangering Gwyn's life. The Diviner and Gwyn are family, they're father and daughter. So really interesting to see where this is going to go. I'm going to hesitate to give John Noble himself an up just yet because we didn't get an awful lot of him in this episode. However, something that is getting an up is Dreadnought. Jimmy Simpson's voice, first of all, absolutely perfectly cast for this role. Dreadnought is actually pretty scary in this episode. And I mean that like either kids show or, adult show. Dreadnought's design is badass and intimidating. If you think, to mash a couple of franchises together for a second, there is evocation of General Grievous from Star Wars, but without any of the bio elements. Like, Dreadnought is proper scary and kind of a bit of a transformer as well. Not only does he suddenly have 4 legs, he also suddenly has a phaser cannon. Is he my favorite thing in the episode? If he's not my favorite, he's up there with my favorite things in the episode. I really like him as a villain. And also, there's just a hint there toward the end. He is standing there, he's got the cannon pointed at the protostar, and then through his internal comms, the Diviner goes, do not damage my prize. And there's just a really cold delivery of, I am well aware. And I got just a slight annoyance, a slight don't tell me what to do coming from this. I will be very interested to see where the relationship between the Diviner and Dreadnought goes throughout the course of this season. But yes, absolutely, he got an up from me this week. Now, this is quite an action-packed first episode, and I think it's really strong in how it invites your new audience in with mystery. But also, something I will come to now in a moment, is how there's enough assumptions for long-term viewers to be like, okay, I can see where this is going. Now, there is one character who also must absolutely get an up for me this week, and that is what I'm pretty sure is a little baby Cation. Oh, it's an up. She's so cute. Now, what I must discuss as well is the music in this episode. I was lost in it. Absolutely lost in it. This episode, interestingly, they do the opening title sequence as the closing credits. Now, presumably they're going to reverse that for next week and going forward. You know, I was watching at the start going, oh, where's those beautiful title credits that we were promised, that was dropped online a couple of weeks ago. So they plays it over the end credits of this week. Really, really strong, really, really beautiful. But that opening theme, I mean, it's up there. It's up there with some of the best of Star Trek. We have a list out there ranking the opening credit sequences from all of Star Trek. I am already going to have to do a little bit of a shuffle as to what order things are going in. But yes, the music this week, definite up from me. And just on that as well, just another sign of the love that's gone into making this episode is clearly not, this might sound very harsh, it's not like, oh, we'll just make a kids show and throw it out there. It's like, no, they have made a solid 40-minute pilot episode of Star Trek that is not pandering to children, it's not pandering to long-term fans, it's incredibly well made, and it has made me very, very excited to see where this series is going. One other up actually comes from the moment Dal returns to the protostar. He's captured, he escapes again, it's pretty cool. But the moment he returns, he realizes that Zero, Jankompog, and Rok-Tahk, they were going to leave without him. It wasn't suddenly of, we must do everything to rescue Dal. We're like, we're getting out of here. Zero, as a Medusan, was able to read minds and predicted that the likelihood of Dal's escape was so low that they just decided, might just skip this whole bit. I like that. That's an up. It's dark, funny, but it's quite practical as well. And there's a sort of an unabashed, there's no guilt. You're like, oh, you're back, that's great. I mean, they don't have a relationship yet. I was surprised and I really liked that, I have to say. Poor Dal, I hope a relationship develops as the season goes on. But yeah, that was a surprise. And look, I would be totally remiss if I didn't up Captain Janeway. She gets seconds of screen time in this episode. It's literally the very, very last thing. And as the episode went along, this was quite predictable. You could see that this was going to be done this way because, frankly, there was enough going on that to stop and pause and have an introduction to Janeway, which was going to carry some weight behind it, was going to slow the episode down a little bit. So I think quite cleverly what they've done is they've ended on somewhat of a cliffhanger. The protostar is in space. The holographic Janeway has been activated, and we know that next week's episode is going to open with Janeway. I wasn't sure I would like the way that this was handled as the episode went on, but no, the delivery I think worked really, really well. So up to the return of Janeway, but included in that is up to how they handled it in episode 1. Now, I am delighted to invite you back with me to Cetacean Observations. My trusty pad is back. So, what do we have? Well, we have a name call out of the Federation. Now, obviously, we were hardly not going to hear about the Federation, the protostar, but also the Diviner is so well aware of the Federation, and yet it is mentioned, obviously, several times that this is in the Delta Quadrant. So that establishes that either the reputation of the USS Voyager is such that all these Delta Quadrant races have heard of the Federation, or we have started to expand into the other quadrants in the galaxy. We also have a Lurian. There is a scene where Zero is talking about their use on the prison planet and how they were used to torture people. We have a Lurian who's then forced to stare into the raw form of the Medusan, which unfortunately drives people mad. So, hooray for the return of the Lurians. Oh God, I wish it was for another reason. That same scene, Zero is encased in the Medusan casing from the original series as well. Nice bit of continuity there. Now, let's talk about the Alpha Quadrant races really quickly. So we see in this episode, we see a Brekar, which, okay, Beta Quadrant, but that end of the universe. We see a Tellurite, we see a Cation. There is a theory, and I think it's quite a good theory, that these are the children of the races that were brought to the Delta Quadrant by the caretaker. Now, this relies a little bit, of course, on having watched Star Trek Voyager, which our older audiences, myself included, we will have done this several times. For the new audiences just joining Star Trek with Star Trek Prodigy, they might not necessarily know that, and this is something that could be revealed as the season goes on, if indeed this is the reason. The theory follows that the caretaker was for years bringing ships over looking for biological compatibility. And we know obviously the Voyager was the last ship the caretaker brought, but was by no means the first. So Tellarite vessels, Medusan vessels, Cation vessels, Brekar vessels, basically the ones I literally just named a moment ago, could all have been brought and then unable to travel home. These could be the children of those crews. Now, unfortunately, seems like a fierce amount of orphans going on, but as we know from Star Trek Voyager, the Delta Quadrant was not the friendliest area of the galaxy. As if almost to prove that point, we then get a Kazon who is delivering this baby Cation into slavery. So, just to kind of hammer home that point. We've already discussed, of course, the beautiful design of the protostar, but the return of the Elcars, it's just so nice to see that back again. But also, even in those Elcars, a little bit of freeze framing showed us references to 47, references to polarizing the hull, which of course was a new technology in Star Trek Enterprise, became sort of commonplace as the series went along. Voyager itself used that several times, notably in the episode Fury to escape the Vidians as well. Now that's everything for our episode this week, guys. There is probably a ludicrous amount that I missed. It's fine, it's a pilot episode. So if you spotted anything, please drop it into the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and particularly, let's engage with this video. Let's start talking about Star Trek Prodigy. Let's make sure that this show gets up and off the ground, because that is what we want, that is what we're getting. We're in this golden age of new Trek. Let's just enjoy it. I have been Sean Ferrick for Trek Culture. You can catch Trek Culture over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can catch myself at Sean Ferrick on all the various socials as well. Now, I will see you next week for the next episode of Star Trek Prodigy's Ups and Downs. In the meantime, you look after yourselves, you live long and prosper, and thanks so much for dropping by.